Good evening. Welcome candidates and fellow citizens to the League of Women Voters of Grosse Pointe Forum for the Grosse Pointe Municipal Judge. Thank you to the Grosse Pointe Unitarian Church for the use of their building to host this forum. My name is Laurie Reed, Vice President of Voter Services. This forum is for the general election on Tuesday, November 7, 2023, and is being videoed by Grosse Pointe South Video Production. The League of Women Voters will present this for viewing within the week on the League's webpage and Facebook page and YouTube channel. We ask that you now please turn off or silence your cell phone and devices. The League has gathered questions from the community via email over the last few weeks. This format will not allow us to submit all of your questions to the candidates. If your question is not answered tonight, we encourage you to follow up with the individual candidates. Questions have been sorted for relevancy, redundancy, and slanderous content. The League is providing this forum as an opportunity for candidates to express their views related to their candidacy. Statements expressed by the candidates are neither endorsed nor opposed by the League. The League does not certify any candidate responses to questions as accurate. Voters are encouraged to fact-check information shared at this forum. Before I introduce our moderator, I would like to mention the League is a 501c3 nonprofit. Please feel free to visit our website, LWVGrossePointe.org, if you are inclined to donate to support our mission of empowering voters and defending democracy. At this time, I would like to introduce Joan Richardson, League member and Director of Programming, who will serve as our moderator tonight.
Thank you, Lori. Good evening, and welcome to everyone who's here tonight for this candidates forum, whether you're with us in person or listening to this video online. As Lori said, the League of Women Voters is a national organization whose mission is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League neither endorses nor opposes candidates or political parties. We welcome all individuals to join us, men and women over the age of 16. The League of Women Voters of Grosse Pointe has established the format for this evening's forum. Each candidate was informed about this format in writing before the event began. Now I'd like to introduce the League members who will be serving as question sorters, timers, and volunteers this evening. Our timekeeper will be Joanne Kelly. Question sorters have been Judy Florian and Julianne Phillips. And other volunteers here this evening are Lori Aurora, Marge Fundle, and Jamie Ray Turnbull. This evening we have 4 candidates for judge for one 4-year term as municipal judge in the City of Grosse Pointe. All candidates were invited to the forum, and I'm pleased to say that all 4 have joined us here this evening. The following candidates are present in alphabetical order: Sarah Colegrove, David Draper, Thomas Krall, and Bryan Sunisloe. Each candidate will have the opportunity to make an opening statement not to exceed 2 minutes. The order was determined by drawing lots just before this event began. Following their opening statements, the candidates will be answering in alternating order written questions from the community. Each candidate will be asked the same question with a 1-minute response allowed for each question. As moderator, I reserve the right to close discussion on any question. At the end of the question period, each candidate will have the opportunity to make a final 2-minute closing statement in reverse order of the opening statements. During the opening and closing statements and during the regular responses to questions, the timer will hold up a card that says 30 seconds and a card indicating stop when the time has expired. If you cannot see those in the back of the room, I assure you the candidates can see. An important part of our format is that there are no questions or comments from the floor during this forum. All questions are to be asked by me from the written questions. Also, I'm asking the audience to refrain from applauding or otherwise audibly reacting until the end of the forum. We're going to begin with the candidates' opening statements. As I say, each candidate has 2 minutes, and so the order has been determined earlier. So the first statement begins with Mr. David Draper.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the league and thank my candidates, fellow candidates. This has been really a fun process, going door to door and meeting everybody and getting to know everybody a lot better. As Joan indicated, I'm Dave Draper. My wife and I moved to Grosse Pointe Farms in 1991 and then to the city in 1999. We raised our children there. They went to Richard, Brownell, and South. We've lived in the Points then for many years. We've been involved in the schools, church, charities, and sports, of course. We've loved it. We love the Points very much. I have an office on Mac in the Farms. Had an office in the Points since 1994 in Grosse Pointe Park. I opened my first office. Currently, I'm in the Farms. Had spots up and down Mac Avenue, and hopefully I'm in my final building. I don't want to build out anymore, and like it there very much. It's a mile from my house. My practice includes the Grosse Pointe courts. I handle small civil matters there, criminal matters, traffic matters, landlord-tenant, and that sort of thing. I've been a case evaluator appointed by Wayne County since 1996, and then shortly thereafter appointed by Oakland, Macomb, 36th District Court, all of the Grosse Pointe courts, and I've been privately hired by many companies and appointed by judges to do case evaluations and facilitations. Today, for instance, I was in the Grosse Pointe Farms, Woods, and Shores courts for their Wednesday courts. In closing, I'm passionate about Grosse Pointe. I love it here. We live here, we work here. I plan to retire here, and I'm asking for your vote in November or when you get your AV ballot. David Draper for judge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Krall?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom Krall. I'm running to be your next municipal judge. Now, the last time there was an open seat was back in 1998. I was at Brownell Middle School. Since, I've graduated from Grosse Pointe South, graduated from Michigan State, graduated from UAD Law School, where I was on the moot court and the law review. I founded a business with $150,000 of student loan debt that I was in. And more importantly, I've had 9 employees. I've represented thousands of clients. I currently have hundreds of clients. And about myself, I've got 2 daughters and 7 nieces and nephews, and we all live in this neighborhood. And we want to make sure that this neighborhood is safe. That's why I'm running for judge. Simply stated, why you should vote for me for 3 reasons. 1, to maintain my impartiality. I'm not soliciting any campaign contributions. I think it's important for a judge to maintain his or her impartiality. And I promise the voters that I will do so. Second, I plan to donate the salary back to the city. Now, this is a part-time court, 2 half-days a month, and it's the least I can do to give back to the community that has given me so much. Now, 3, and most importantly, this is what the voters should care about, is I'm young enough and I've got enough enthusiasm to defend this court. We have a small, local municipal court, one of 4 in the state. It is the smallest jurisdiction, and the state would love to make our municipal court a district court. I've got the enthusiasm to defend this court for the next 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. We'll do whatever it takes to maintain our local identity, make sure we keep our community court. Now, I think that the decision is simple, but it's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Krall. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Sunisloe.
Provided I can get the machine.
Good evening. My name is Bryan Sunisloe. First of all, likewise, I would like to thank the Grosse Pointe League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I think it is very important and imperative that all of the voters in this city have knowledge of the candidates who are running. I've been a Grosse Pointe resident since 1982. I know it's hard to believe that I'm that old. I lived initially in Grosse Pointe Woods until 2014, at which time I purchased a home, a townhouse at English Terrace on Rivard. In fact, I purchased the townhouse from Tom's father and mother. So that shows how small this community actually is. I have loved living in the community for the past 42 years. During that time, I have raised 3 children, and I'm happily married to Patty Sunisloe, who likewise has been very involved in the community. She was previously the director of the Family Center, and today she is on the board of directors of Full Circle. In terms of my education, I am extremely proud of the fact that I received my entire education in the city of Detroit. I received an excellent education from the Detroit Public Schools. I graduated from Denby High School, and thereafter I attended Wayne State University, where I obtained a liberal arts degree before attending Detroit College of Law. My candidacy for municipal judge incorporates 3 key components: experience, integrity, and commitment. And as stated, I am running for judge because I am committed to the city and I want to serve the people of Grosse Pointe. Thank you for your vote.
And finally, we'll hear from Sarah Colegrove.
Right. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight, and for all those that are here in person and those listening online. As many of you may know, I'm a lifelong resident of Grosse Pointe, and because of the many blessings and opportunities that I've received here, I would like the opportunity to give back. The best way that I can do that is by using my skills and experience as an attorney to serve as our next judge. I have over 31 years of broad-based legal experience in many different areas of law, including civil and criminal. I have represented clients in every level of court, from the municipal and district court level to the U.S. Supreme Court. It is these 31 years of broad-based experience that makes me capable to understand and address all of the different issues that will be heard in our court. But included in those 31 years of broad-based experience are over 20 years of experience in serving in a role like a judge where I'm a neutral party. I am a certified mediator. I arbitrate cases for the Better Business Bureau, and I mediate cases for the U.S. Postal Service, among other roles where I serve as a neutral. And it is in these roles where I have learned to be fair and impartial, how to be open-minded, to be a good listener, to be decisive, and most important, to understand each party's point of view. Serving in a neutral capacity is a different mindset than serving as an advocate. These are skills that take time to cultivate, and I won't need to learn them on the bench. And it is these skills that set me apart from the other candidates and make me the right choice for the next municipal judge. And that is why on November 7th, I'm asking that you vote for me as our next judge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to begin with the questions, and I will remind you that you have 1 minute to respond to each question. And again, the timekeeper will show you when you are getting close. So the first question, Mr. Krall, you'll be the first one to respond to this. All of you are attorneys. All of you have been engaged in the practice of law for a number of years. So I think we'd like to know why you would like to make this leap at this point in your careers to become a judge. And more specifically, why do you want to become a municipal judge? Mr. Krall?
Well, this is a very good question. First and foremost, being an attorney has been a calling. I've had the calling since I was in high school. Now, at this point in my life, it's a calling to become your judge. I've got 2 daughters that I'm raising in this community. I've got 7 nieces and nephews that all live within a mile of this very church. I want to make sure that this neighborhood is safe. I want to make sure that this community remains a safe place to live for the next generation.
All right, next we'll go to Mr. Sunisloe.
First of all, let me turn it on again.
I have been an attorney for 42 years, and during that period of time, I have reinvented myself a number of times. I've worked for the government, I've worked in private industry, I've worked for a corporation. I've been in practice for 17 years, but the reason that I want to be a municipal judge at this time is because my strong commitment to giving back to the community, something that I feel that I can offer, which is my experience, my integrity, and most importantly, my commitment. Accordingly, this is why I want to serve. I've been a mediator in both Macomb County as well as Wayne County for in excess of 25 years. I have the experience necessary. I've done basically everything that I can possibly think will come in front of me as a judge, and I will be fair, unbiased, and hope to serve this community.
All right, next we'll move to Ms. Colegrove.
As I said in my opening, one of the motivations for running for this position was my desire to give back to the community. I've grown up here, and I'd like the opportunity to give back because of all the blessings that I've received growing up here. And as I also said in my opening, I have over 31 years of broad-based legal experience, which will enable me to understand and administer the issues that will be heard before the court. And in addition, my 20 years of experience as a mediator and an arbitrator will allow me to be fair and impartial and to treat all the citizens with dignity and respect and be able to administer the courtroom. And so for those reasons, I am running for judge.
Finally, Mr. Draper.
Thank you. I've been practicing 33 years, but before that, when I was 16, I started as a runner, delivering documents to other law firms and to courts. I've been going to courts pretty much my whole life. It's all I've done professionally. It's what I love. I'm passionate about it. I love this community. I've got to watch some fantastic judges, including our retiring judge, Russ Etheridge, and learn from him over the years. And I feel like it's been my pleasure and my great just ability to learn from these judges, and specifically the really good judges like the ones we have here. I want to continue the good things that are going on in this court and the efficiencies. And yes, it's a small court, but I want to keep it as fair and wonderful and good to this community as it is now. And thank you for that opportunity.
All right, final question number 2. Serving as a municipal judge, as some of you have noted, is a part-time position. I think the position pays about $15,000 a year. So how will you balance the workload of being a municipal judge with your other work? And we'll begin with Mr. Sunisloe.
That's an excellent question. I want to state, first of all, that I am not doing this. I am not running for office for compensation. I have been practicing law for a long time, and as I indicated in my last comment, I want to give back to the community, a community that I love, a community where I've lived for the last 42 years. And with my experience, I feel that I can manage my active practice of law, which involves a number of different areas, as a private practitioner over the last since 1997, at which time I began my private practice. And accordingly, I think that I do not believe that it is going to be difficult for me to wear the hats necessary to continue my private practice and serve this community admirably.
All right, thank you. Ms. Colegrove.
So the question raises a good issue. You know, this is a part-time position, and the attorney serving in this role will be able to also continue her practice. And so it's important to choose somebody that will be able to remain fair and neutral and impartial. My practice will allow me to do that. It is not concentrated in these courts, so I won't be sitting, for example, as a defense attorney one day or a prosecutor, and then the next day. I'll be able to remain fair and neutral. And with my training as a mediator and an arbitrator, I will be able to run the courtroom, remain fair and impartial, and treat everybody with dignity and respect.
Thank you. Mr. Draper?
The question on the table is, how are you going to juggle this? How are you going to do the judgeship and have your practice? And my secretary asked me that this morning. How are we going to do this? And she was laughing and joking. But she knows it's what I want to do, and we're going to make it work. I have a fantastic staff who really, really make sure I'm in the right places at the right time. I go from court to court, and that's what I do. And I spend 2 Thursdays per month, generally, right across the street at that courthouse. I'm used to doing that. That's what I do on Thursday mornings. That's where I go on Thursday mornings. That's where I want to go on Thursday mornings. And that's where I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Krall?
Well, I think it will be simple. Quite frankly, I've developed a business where I have 9 employees. I've developed the processes where, in addition to the owner of the business and the manager of the employees, I serve as an attorney. That is my role. We provide legal services to people just like all of you. And it has never affected my ability to go on vacation with my family, go home for dinner every night at 5:30, and also maintain my top quality representation for my hundreds of clients. So, with all that being said, I will be able to be a manager of the court and maintain its efficiency, keep the court moving, maintain any labor issues, staff the court. I can handle that as proven by opening my own law office, having 9 employees, and also having my own building. Thank you.
Thank you. A related question to that is, in your private practice, do you currently represent criminal defendants in Grosse Pointe? And if you're elected, would you continue to do so? Ms. Colegrove, let's start with you.
As I said in my opening, I do have a broad-based background in many different areas of law, including civil and criminal, but I do not currently represent any criminal case. I do not have any criminal cases in the municipal courts or elsewhere. I have been concentrating on my practice in areas where I serve as a neutral party, where I am a mediator for the U.S. Postal Service. I arbitrate cases for the Better Business Bureau. I'm also on several case evaluation panels, and throughout the years I have facilitated cases for the courts, and I find alternative dispute resolution fascinating. That's why I got involved in it, and I think that these experiences would help serve me well if I'm elected judge, and I would treat everybody fairly and impartially, and that's why I'm looking for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Draper?
I currently do have criminal cases in the Grosse Pointe. That's a primary part of my practice. That's a primary part and a primary role of what this judge does Judge Etheridge does every other Thursday. Those are the most common cases seen there, traffic and criminal. And those are the type of things that I handle in that court. I have no problem, obviously, not handling cases in Grosse Pointe. If and when I'm elected to be the judge there, that would be a conflict of interest. No judge can sit as a judge and handle cases in that court. So obviously I would turn down any representation that would create such a conflict. And my practice in that court over the last 25 years has caused Judge Russ Etheridge to endorse me to be his successor and be the next judge for Grosse Pointe City. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krall?
This is a very important question, and it's vital to our success as a municipal court. If we want to maintain the court moving forward to the next generation, we cannot continue representing defendants in other Grosse Pointes. If elected judge, I will not represent any other party in any other municipal court. I believe that's a conflict, and I don't want the appearance of a conflict to affect our ability to have a municipal court. If we lose our court, we will lose our local identity. All right? I do not currently represent criminal defendants in the court, and I don't intend to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sunisloe?
In the past, I have represented criminal defendants in the Grosse Pointe courts. However, I am currently not representing any criminal defendants. And as Mr. Krall indicated, and I agree with him, I will not, and I stress, will not represent any criminal defendants in the Grosse Pointe courts. My practice is primarily civil. I probably do about 25% of my practice devoted to defending criminal defendants. However, as indicated, I feel that we have to avoid the appearance of impropriety, and if it means not taking a case, so be it. And I would be very happy to represent this city as the municipal judge moving forward.
All right, thank you very much. I think we'd like to know a little bit more about what ties you have to the community, what else you do beyond the practice of law, what sort of connections you have to other aspects of the Grosse Pointes. And we're going to start with Mr. Draper.
Thank you. We've lived in the Grosse Pointe since 1991. We belong to Grosse Pointe Memorial Church. I'm a board member at Forgotten Harvest, which is one of the nation's largest food rescues. I've coached Little League here. I've coached basketball here. My wife has been intimately involved with the schools over the years. We have strong community ties and strong community roots. And when I go door to door and knock on these doors, I see people that I've known over the decades who our kids grew up together and played sports together. We stay very involved in the community, and I have every interest in keeping this community safe and keeping this court as Grosse Pointe as it is. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Krall.
Well, my ties to this community started when I was in kindergarten, and I went to Kirby Elementary School. I then went to Brownell and South, where I was captain of the football team. Now, I want to serve the community and continue to serve the community. So since I've become an attorney, I've been volunteering as a mock trial coach, and I've hired numerous interns out of our Grosse Pointe South. I want to continue to give back. Moving forward, I'm a member of the Richard PTO. I'm a parishioner at St. Paul's Catholic Church. And I'm a father of a 5-year-old soccer player where I coach in the neighborhood soccer league. I've got 7 nieces and nephews, and they all play sports, and I've been a coach of the Red Barons, and I've been a big supporter of the Grosse Pointe South Gridiron Club. And, you know, I plan to give back for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sunisloe.
As I indicated, I've lived in this community for 42 years. My children attended school in Grosse Pointe. I have coached Little League. I have coached at the neighborhood club. I have been involved in the YMCA as a leader as well as a participant with my children. My wife has been involved with the Family Center as the director. She is currently a director on the board at Full Circle. Quite frankly, this is the community I love. This is the community that I want to stay in. I'm a member of Jefferson Avenue Presbyterian Church, where I've served as an elder, a deacon for many, many years. I am committed to this community and will continue to stay in this community for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Colegrove.
I am a lifelong resident of the City of Grosse Pointe. My father and his family also resided here, so my family has ties to this community that span 3 generations. I grew up in this community. I live in a 1912 farmhouse with my husband. I've been living there for 30 years. I have established many lifelong friendships due to living here. I went to school here. I started out at the Academy, Mare, Piers, and graduated from Grosse Pointe South with honors. And I've participated in many activities over the years, too many to mention, but one that comes to mind is swimming. My love of swimming was born at the Grosse Pointe City Park. I learned how to swim there. I swam on the NORB swim team. I was a lifeguard, a swim coach, and a swim instructor. And it is through these experiences that I've developed strong ties to the community. My husband and I also support many organizations and nonprofits, including the Ford House and the library, one of my favorite places. And it is because of these things that we live here and plan to stay in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. You've all done a nice job of demonstrating how connected you are to the community. Those connections obviously present opportunities. They also present challenges. So I think we'd like to know, how do you ensure impartiality when you are hearing cases that could involve your friends, your neighbors, your fellow church members, perhaps even your family? Where and how do you draw the line and decide when you need to remove yourself from a case? We'll begin with Mr. Krall.
Well, this strikes at the heart of my campaign. I want to make sure that we have a municipal court for generations to come. So I have chosen not to solicit or accept any campaign contributions because I don't want to be beholden to anybody but you, the voters. Now, when it comes to my family, I do have a couple brothers that live in town, a couple sisters that live in town. I certainly won't be handling their cases. The court administrator has a process set up to refer those cases to other courts. Now, when it comes to my lifelong friends, the question will be, when's the last time I talked to them? If I haven't talked to them in 30 years, I'm probably going to be hearing the case, if I can be impartial. However, if they're a close family friend, such as went to my wedding, came over for a holiday, I certainly won't be handling their cases. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sunisloe?
Once again, I believe that impartiality is extremely important. I believe that I can be fair and impartial, and I can serve this community by demonstrating my integrity that I have demonstrated for my entire career. Accordingly, I believe that moving forward, this will not be an issue. I can represent the court and be fair and impartial to everyone. I know the law, I'm experienced, and I will judge cases fairly as a municipal judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Colegrove?
As I said earlier, my practice would allow me to remain fair and impartial. I don't currently conduct any cases that would create any sort of conflict of interest or even an appearance of impropriety. I've been devoting myself to areas where I've learned how to be fair and impartial and other skills of a neutral party through my mediation and arbitration and other areas where I serve as a neutral party. If an instance were to arise where it was my husband or a close friend or family were to appear before me and it was clear that I couldn't stay fair and impartial, I would be required to disqualify myself. Or if I had an interest in a business that was appearing by my court. There are strong rules about this, and impartiality is something that we would need to, abide by and ensure occurs in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Draper?
The judicial canons speak to this, and it's, I think, fairly obvious. It's what people would, it's common sense. If it was a family member, obviously you have to recuse yourself, and that case is going to go somewhere else. If it's someone you have business dealings with, or someone you're close to, or a client, or something like that, you would have to recuse yourself. I'm in these courts, in these Grosse Pointe courts, at least every week, and I see this happen all the time because there are 4 judges, and they know lots of people in the community. So what they will often do is disclose to both parties, both the plaintiff's attorney and the defense attorney. The judge will say, I know Mr. Gruppenhoff, or I know this person or that person, and they'll ask both attorneys to okay the judge to stay on the case, because oftentimes the judge says, I coach that kid in Little League, or they are my neighbor down the street, whatever. The judge oftentimes knows the people. So what they do is they ask for consent, and if that is allowed, then they can continue. But there are certain bright lines that you simply cannot cross, and I wouldn't. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you. As municipal judge, you'll also be managing a small staff and, of course, a budget. So I think we'd like to know more about your management experience, and please feel free to be as specific as you can be. We're going to begin with Mr. Sunisloe.
I have managed my law firm since 1997. I have engaged many employees during that period of time. I own the building where I operate. It is a small business, as Mr. Krall indicated with his practice. It takes time and effort and experience to be able to run and manage a small business. I've been very successful at managing my personal affairs. I feel that I can bring to this court, as I indicated, the experience that I've demonstrated and acquired over the past 42 years in running a court, in helping employ and guide the staff throughout the tenure of my years as a municipal court judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Colegrove?
I started my own practice in 1999, and through the experiences that I've learned in being my own business person, I've learned how to run a business, how to be timely, how to be courteous to staff, and in working with people that are your vendors. You know, it's important to, treat everybody with dignity and respect, and I do this in my business as well. As I said, we've been in business for 23 years, and I think that's something that I'm very proud of. And these are the skills of a business person that I would bring to the court if I'm elected as municipal judge. And in addition, I've owned 2 rental properties, so I'm very familiar with things that would need to be done to run the court and run the business. And I'm hoping that I can get your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Draper?
Likewise, I opened my first law practice in the Little Blue Book building on February 1st, 1994. I started my practice then. I have bought and sold buildings up and down Mack Avenue, currently in the farms on Mack. My staff has been with me for over 10 years at this time. I am very, very blessed to have the staff I have. Everything works really smoothly, but it doesn't come without times where you're taking out the garbage or paying the taxes or taking care of business that you have to as a small business owner. I know we all have to go through that, and I'm well equipped to handle that and have done so for decades at the court. I have a good working relationship with the staff at the court currently. I know them quite well and would have no problem seamlessly stepping over and taking over that role. Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Krall?
Well, this is a institution, a department of our local government. It has a small staff. I currently manage 9 employees. I own my own building. Now, I've been through labor vacancies. We worked through COVID. I got my employees back to work, and we were able to not skip a meet and not lose any clients because of it. And I'm not going to start when I become the judge of creating problems through labor with the court. What's important is communication, transparency. Now, having 9 employees, that's 9 different PTO requests due to various family reasons, various children. I believe we have about 10 kids combined throughout the office, and it creates a lot of issues, but we've worked through them. We've developed systems, and that's exactly what we'll do and continue to do with our local court.
Thank you. You've all done a good job here of explaining how much experience you've had in the courts. I've been in and out of a lot of courts over the course of your careers. So I'm guessing that you have developed some pretty strong opinions about what make the courts function efficiently and effectively. I'd like to know what you think has been what effective methods you've run into that you would like to ensure are imported into the Grosse Pointe Municipal Court. And we're going to start with Ms. Colegrove.
So since the pandemic, the courts have been utilizing more technology to become more efficient. And if elected, I would take a look at some of those technologies to try to implement them so that the court could be more accessible and that people could have more access to court hearings. Like, for example, not every hearing might need to be in person, so we could take a look at using some more Zoom technology. And there could be some other things that might improve efficiencies at the court. It's difficult for me to say, you know, what my understanding is that the courts right now, everyone feels that they're run very well. And so in order to determine what would need to be done, we need to get in there and, you know, take a look at everything. But one of the other things that I would like to implement if elected, and I think would be very valuable to our community, would be to implement a community mediation program that would be based in Grosse Pointe. In talking to residents, I've learned that there are some types of disputes, some civil disputes, perhaps a fence dispute or a small civil matter that could be resolved before coming to the court.
Thank you. Mr. Draper?
Since I'm in the court often, I know how it runs. It runs very efficiently. Judge Etheridge takes the bench at 8 a.m. each court day, which is fantastic for practitioners who have to be in other courts. You can get in and out of there in 5 minutes if you need to, or if you need to come back at 10:30, whatever it is. They work very, very well with practitioners. They presently do use Zoom technology. That's in effect. I'm in there, I know that. If I'm out of town and I need to appear via Zoom, the court is more than happy to allow me to appear via Zoom and anybody else that asks. Also, the court uses staggered times. So you can come in at 8 a.m. if you need to, you can come in at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. The court leaves that morning period open and staggers the cases so there's not a rush at 8 o'clock or at 9 o'clock. It's very efficient presently, and I will keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krall?
The past 25 years, Judge Etheridge has done a fantastic job, and we should commemorate him for his dedication to our community. Now, not being said that our court can improve. We, in the last 5 years, have gone through a technological revolution. With that, there are courts being left behind. I think of St. Clair County, they don't have the broadband to support Zoom. We need to make sure that we focus on updating technology, making sure we stay current with the times. Now, I have the youth and enthusiasm to make those tough changes. I remember after we were forced to shut down and the courts transferred to Zoom. Nobody had used Zoom prior to that point. I had to invest $40,000 into my building just so my internet was sufficient to support Zoom. I made that commitment. Now, I'm glad to say I don't have to run around from court to court. Thank you.
Excuse me. Mr. Sunisloe?
I also agree that Zoom is very, very important. At first, I was not in favor of Zoom, but today I realize how important it is that courts operate and utilize the technology that is available. I will continue to strive to use new forms of technology as they become available. But also, I believe that ADR, an alternate dispute resolution, is important for resolving civil cases. We seem to be focusing this afternoon on criminal matters. However, we got to keep in mind that many of the cases that we're going to see are going to be small claims cases that involve neighbor versus neighbor and disputes that can be resolved by ADR, which I'm in favor of.
Moving on to the next question. As you know, the state of Michigan has only 4 municipal courts remaining. All 4 of those courts are in the Grosse Pointes: Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe City, Grosse Pointe Farms/Shores, and Grosse Pointe Woods. You, of course, are seeking to be the judge in the city of Grosse Pointe. Tell us why you believe your community needs to continue to have a municipal court, or whether you would advise the communities to merge into a single district court. And we'll begin with Mr. Draper.
It's quirky. Again, I'm the practitioner that's in these courts. I love it. It's something very unique to Grosse Pointe. You get a local judge, you get local folks that work in the courts predominantly. They're from the points. And I really like this wrinkle that we have in Grosse Pointe. It makes us unique, like our parks and our schools and our residents. I think it's fabulous. I would vow to keep them. I don't think there's an active push right now in the legislature to combine us, but I understand that that could come in the future. It has reared its head on occasion, but we've always maintained our independence, and I think we'll continue to do so, and I love it that way. So I would continue it and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krall?
Our court is our gem, and we need to keep it. Now, this is more important to the city. We are the smallest jurisdiction. In fact, Grosse Pointe Shores has to pay Grosse Pointe Farms to use their court. In order to maintain our local identity, we need to keep our court, just like our police department. I remember when Chief Jim Fox went door to door to keep our police, and he got it done. He got the money, he got it on the bill, and he got it done. I was a kid back then, and I'm willing to keep on this tradition. We need to keep our court. I've got the youth and enthusiasm. Whenever these political pressure groups come and try to take our court from us, I'm going to be there to defend it, whether it be 4 years from now, 8 years from now, or 12 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sunisloe?
I fully concur in the responses by both Mr. Krall and by Mr. Draper. We have a diamond in the rough. We have a unique situation. As indicated, there are only 4 municipal courts in the state of Michigan. Grosse Pointe is a very, very small community. Grosse Pointe Farms is a little bit larger. The Shores is about the same size. The park is the largest community. However, we all share one thing, and that is our uniqueness. And I would strive to see this court remain independent and unique for the reasons indicated.
Thank you. Ms. Colegrove?
I think all of us involved would like to keep our disputes local. 98% of the cases that are heard in our municipal court are civil infractions. They're not criminal, and the other 2% are some civil, landlord-tenant, small claims, and some other criminal matters. And by keeping things local, we can control. For example, if a minor is confronted with a charge, and we can try to prevent repeat recidivism, and by keeping it local, we can also resolve our disputes locally and then keep control of things and not send our disputes downtown. I don't think any of us want that. And if we were to implement a mediation program, we could also resolve some of our disputes before they even come to court. Thank you.
Thank you. What challenge do you think face the Grosse Pointe Municipal Court currently, and how would you address them? Let's begin with Mr. Krall.
Well, I guess I sound like a broken record. In order to maintain a part-time court, we need to avoid the appearance of impropriety. That's why I have chosen not to solicit or accept any campaign contributions. I don't want to be in debt to anybody but the voters. Further, I promise not to represent any other individuals in the other courts to avoid this appearance of impropriety. Now that's important because when you do represent people, it applies pressure, and we don't want that. I practice almost exclusively in the circuit court. I don't practice in the local courts. I haven't done so in over 10 years. I've been blessed to say I haven't been there. So in order to keep it, we need to avoid our appearance of impropriety to maintain our impartiality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sunisloe.
I could not agree more with Mr. Krall. We have to avoid the appearance of any type of impropriety that would cause this court to be demeaned by its citizenry. Accordingly, I would strive to work along the same lines that I believe all of us would endeavor to engage in behavior that would allow the court to be independent and impartial. I believe, like Mr. Krall, my experience is primarily in the circuit court of both Wayne and Macomb counties. And I think that based on the fact that I do not intend to have a local practice in Grosse Pointe, I can bring to bear the impartiality that this court needs. And likewise, I'm out of time.
Thank you, Ms. Colegrove.
As my other candidates have said, this is a part-time position. The judge sits 2 times a month, and the attorney that serves in this role will be allowed to continue her practice. As I've said, that my practice will allow me to remain fair and impartial. I don't currently practice in these courts, but I have the broad-based legal experience to understand all of the issues that would be presented before the court. I think it's important that the person serving in this role remains fair and impartial, but also that has the mindset of a neutral party. It's different than being an advocate. And through my training as a mediator and arbitrator, I can remain fair and impartial and do the other things that are necessary to run the court. And I think that challenge of remaining fair and impartial could be accomplished, and I'd like your vote on November 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Draper.
I think the question was, what challenges does this local court have? And I know that I'm in that court all the time. We don't have a great deal of challenges, quite honestly. It's run very efficiently on a very tiny budget, but it stays on budget. It stays on time. It treats people fairly. I know because I'm in there. The staff treats you well. The judge treats you well, regardless of where you come from, whether you're a Grosse Pointe resident or you're from somewhere else in Michigan. It doesn't matter. This court is run very well. I know that they have staffing issues just like anybody, but overall, it's a well-run court. It's a well-oiled machine, and I'm going to keep it that way. It is not a court that needs some sort of overhaul. That's absolutely not the case, and I know that because I'm there every other Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. As a judge, do you have an obligation to improve public understanding of the courts? And if yes, how would you do that? Mr. Sunisloe?
Again, based on my experience of having practiced law for 42 years, having practiced before multiple judges, having been a prosecutor, having been a defense attorney, having engaged in both civil law as well as criminal law, I believe strongly that that will form the basis of my ability to judge others fairly and adequately and without partiality. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Colegrove. Could you repeat the question, please? As a judge, do you have an obligation to improve public understanding of the courts? And if yes, how would you do that?
I think in a small community like this, and one of the reasons, very important reasons why I've been going door to door is so that I can meet members in the community so they can learn about me. I think it is important that the person serving as judge create a better understanding of what happens in the court, and that's what I've been trying to do when I go door to door. If I were elected, I've contemplated creating a communication plan. Perhaps we're writing articles or keeping the website up to date, things of that nature, so that the community could understand what is happening in our courts. And I do think it's important that people understand and are a part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Draper.
Of course, we have a duty to make sure the public understands what goes on in the courts. It's shocking to me when I go door to door, people don't know really where the court is, what it does, how many judges we have, things like that. So I educate them the best I can on the fly. But what I've had good experience with is
seeing classrooms come into the courtroom, which I think would be fabulous, and I would like to continue that activity. I think that's great. I have handled very serious matters. I had a case in Troy that the judge there asked me, would I bring it to a high school in Troy, and they filled the auditorium, and my client basically had his case laid out there it was a court case, but it happened in a high school, and it was fabulous. I mean, it gave these kids better than anything on TV, I could tell you that. And my client, it was a gutsy thing to do, but he did it, and I think everybody benefited from that, including my client. So I think you have to educate, you have to be transparent, and you want people to know what's going on in the courts. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krall.
Well, I've been educating our young people since I started practicing law. I've been a volunteer mock trial coach at Grosse Pointe South for a decade. And in that capacity, I've hired multiple interns out of the school. In fact, one of my interns, who's now at Harvard, it's kind of funny. At Harvard, what they do is they advise small claims improper, or people representing themselves, defendants. And I think that's absolutely terrific. Now, as a judge, it's very difficult. There are certain rules that don't allow you to talk to people. I think that's actually, Judge Etheridge does a fantastic job of explaining what is actually going on to the people that are before him while he's on the record. It makes the lawyer's jobs a lot easier when you're up against an unrepresented party. Now, what Ms. Colegrove has said about keeping our website up to date. I've seen courts left behind. We don't want our court to be left behind. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you've answered a lot of questions, and we're going to move into our closing statements. And I thank you for your patience with this. Let me remind you that each candidate is entitled to a 2-minute closing statement, and the order of the presentation is now reversed. And so we're going to begin with Ms. Colegrove.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. And I'd like to close by saying that even though this is a part-time position, I will give my full time and attention to serving our community well. I am not looking to build my practice. I'm not looking for a stepping stone to another position. I feel compelled to serve. And I plan to carry on the tradition of excellence in our community courts and will treat all citizens equally, fairly, and with dignity and respect. My broad-based legal background, coupled with my 20 years of experience in mediation and arbitration, make me well-suited, qualified, and set me apart from the other candidates. And so on November 7th, I'm asking that you vote for me as our next municipal judge. I'd also like to take this time to thank the many volunteers and members of the community that have helped me with this campaign. I'd also like to thank my husband, my campaign manager. I know this is a team effort, and for all of the support that I've received in many different formats, I'm very grateful. One of the highlights of this campaign has been going door to door and meeting all of the residents. I've knocked on every door in the city, and I'm currently making my second round. I have met so many interesting people. I've connected with old friends, and I've made new friends. And if we haven't crossed paths so far, and you'd like to meet me, or you'd like to be invited to one of my meet and greets, feel free to reach out to me on my website, and you can learn more about me and my campaign on my website, which is Colegrove, 4judge.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sunisloe?
As I began my response this afternoon, I indicated that there were 3 components to my candidacy: experience, integrity, and commitment. I am committed as part of my career to give back to the community that I love, to serve as the municipal court judge. I believe with my years of experience, with the practice that I've had, with the integrity that I've demonstrated, that I am a perfect choice for the position of municipal court judge. As Mr. Draper indicated, and I would have to concur in his comment that this court is not in bad shape. This court has been run very efficiently. We've been very fortunate as a community to have a court that has been operated as efficiently as it has. And I would also agree with the comment that Mr. Krall made that it is the job of a judge to help to educate the litigants who are before the court so that they feel comfortable, whether represented or not. And for those reasons, I think that I would be a perfect candidate and a perfect choice for judge, which is why I am asking you to vote for Bryan Sunisloe for municipal judge on November 7th, which happens to be my mother's birthday. But aside from that, please consider me as your next municipal court judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krall?
Well, I got to go without saying, but my father's birthday is also November 7th, so we have that in common. I'm surprised you didn't notice that at the closing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I remember when I was in high school being raised in this community and watching these debates, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And quite frankly, we have the best lawyers in the state living in this community, as evidenced by the lawyers we're on the stage with. In fact, when I was in high school, I watched Mr. Draper on the local public access channel educating the voters, all right? Besides the fact that these are three great lawyers, all right, I think the answer is simple. Now, you're the jury, all right? And this is the decision that you have to make. For the next generation, do you want to maintain this court? And if so, I think the vote is simple. You have to vote for me. All right? Youth and enthusiasm. I can defend this court. I will maintain its impartiality. I will never be in debt to anybody except my wife. All that being said, I'm here because of my family. I gotta thank my family. I gotta thank this community. And I gotta ask for your vote because it's important for not only my family, but for yours. Thank you so much for your time. If you remember anything from tonight, for justice for all, vote for Krall. To protect your families, vote for Krall. To protect your businesses, vote for Krall. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Draper.
I just want to thank also the league and thank you to my candidates. This Grosse Pointe City Judgeship is a very serious position and I intend to take it very seriously. The rulings that come out of this court affect the public safety, they affect the people, the litigants there in many different ways. In some ways, they can affect them financially, it might affect somebody's driving privileges, it might even affect their liberty. And these things don't happen just on Thursday mornings twice a month. The judge is called on to review and read and sign warrants in the middle of the night. They hold arraignments on off-court days other than court days. This is something that comes up. This is not just a 2 morning per month job. It is far more serious, and it really affects people's lives seriously. And I will take it seriously, and I will make myself available at the drop of a hat, as I do now for my clientele. I will for this court. I've devoted my career to handling just the type of cases that go through this court. I have experience of 33 years litigating these cases and practicing in these courts, including across the street and including right here in this church when this acted as the court while the building across the street was getting worked on. I was here countless times. And my dedication and my experience is why Judge Etheridge is endorsing me to be the next Grosse Pointe City Municipal Judge. There is no one on the planet better suited for this job than me, and that's why I'm asking you to vote for David Draper for Judge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This concludes the questions and the answers for this evening's forum. I want to remind you that this forum will be available for viewing on the League of Women Voters Grosse Pointe webpage and its Facebook page. Our online voter guide, which covers this race, is at vote411.org, and a link to that is also available on our website, which is LWVGP.org. Election Day is Tuesday, November 7th. Polls open at 7 a.m. They close at 8 p.m. You can verify your voting registration status by calling your city clerk or going to vote411.org or to the Michigan Secretary of State website. Before we adjourn, I have a short but important list of people that we would like to thank. I'd like to thank our videographer, Steve Garrissey, who's been quietly standing in the back watching all of us all evening. The league members who timed the event, sorted the questions, and generally volunteered for this evening. I want to thank the audience for taking an interest in this important local election. And finally, I want to say a very personal thank you to the candidates for their willingness to participate in this forum, and most of all for their willingness to run for public office. We cannot underestimate the importance of having high-quality people run for every local, state, and national office. So let's show them our appreciation for their commitment to public service. Thank you.